Lillian Bell had never planned on returning to the small town of Whittaker. It had been years since she last walked down its cobbled streets, where time seemed to stand still. But when she received the letter about her grandfather Elias Bell's disappearance, she had no choice. He had raised her after her parents died, teaching her the art of clockmaking, and now he was gone. The workshop smelled of old wood and machine oil, the scent of a childhood spent watching her grandfather tinker with gears and springs. Dust coated the counters, but the air held something else, a whisper of unfinished business. A stack of Elias's journals lay neatly on his desk, bound in worn leather. Lillian picked one up, flipping through the brittle pages filled with complex diagrams and cryptic notes. The words, "Time is not fixed," were underlined multiple times. A shiver ran through her. She had always known Elias was brilliant, but had he discovered something truly impossible? As she delved deeper into the notes, she found references to a clock unlike any other. It was unfinished, hidden somewhere in the shop. The last entry read, "The masterpiece must not fall into the wrong hands." Determined, she searched through the workshop, moving aside old clocks, opening drawers, and feeling along the walls. Hours passed before she found it, a compartment built into the grandfather clock that had always stood in the corner. Inside was a half-assembled timepiece, its gears unlike anything she had ever seen. A noise startled her. She turned sharply. A man stood in the doorway, his silhouette framed against the dim light of the street lamp. He stepped forward, revealing sharp features and calculating eyes. "You must be Lillian," he said smoothly. "I've been looking for you." Her fingers tightened around the clock. "Who are you?" "An associate of your grandfather. He and I had unfinished business. That device belongs to me." Lillian's mind raced. If this man knew about the clock, he might know what happened to Elias. "Where is he?" she demanded. The man smirked. "Give me the clock, and I might tell you." She took a step back, heart pounding. Elias's warning echoed in her mind. The masterpiece must not fall into the wrong hands. Something told her that meant this man. With a sudden burst of movement, she turned and ran, clutching the timepiece. The streets of Whittaker blurred past as she sprinted towards the one place she knew she would be safe. The old bell tower where Elias had once taken her to watch the town from above. She reached the tower, bolting the heavy door behind her. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she examined the device in her hands. If Elias had truly unlocked the secret of time, then perhaps she could find a way to fix everything, to bring him back. A sudden bang against the door sent fear through her veins. She had to act fast. With trembling hands, she fitted the last pieces together, following the instructions in Elias's notes. The gears clicked into place. The clock began to tick, and then the world around her shifted. Lillian gasped as the room blurred and darkened. When her vision cleared, she was no longer in the bell tower. She was in Elias's workshop, but it was different. The dust and decay were gone, replaced by the warm glow of lanterns. The air smelled of fresh varnish, and the rhythmic ticking of dozens of clocks filled the space. Her grandfather stood before her, alive and well, adjusting a pocket watch with practiced precision. "Elias," she cried out, stepping forward. He looked up, startled. His eyes widened. "Lillian? How did you?" But before she could answer, another voice interrupted. "You activated the clock," said the man from before. Only he was different too. His sharp features were the same, but he looked younger. Impressive. Lillian spun to face him. "Who are you? What is happening?" Elias stepped between them, his expression dark. "Lillian, step away from him." The man smirked. "Too late for that, old friend. She's already changed everything." Lillian's mind reeled. The clock had sent her back in time. She had a chance to warn Elias, to stop whatever had led to his disappearance. "Grandfather, you have to listen to me. In the future, you vanish. This man, he comes looking for your work. You told me never to let it fall into the wrong hands." Elias looked grave. "I know. That's why I hid the masterpiece. But you activating it has disrupted the timeline." The man chuckled. "You always underestimated me, Elias. But now, thanks to your dear granddaughter, I can correct the mistakes of the past." Lillian's grip on the clock tightened. "Not if I stop you. Time seemed to slow as the man lunged at her. Lillian turned the clock's dial, hoping against hope that she could undo this mistake. Light enveloped her again, the world spinning, and then she was falling. When she landed, the ground beneath her was cold and metallic. She was no longer in the past. She was somewhere else entirely. The air buzzed with electricity, and before her stood a wall of gears larger than any machine she had ever seen. The masterpiece fully assembled. A voice echoed through the vast space. "Welcome, traveler. You have reached the heart of time." Lillian looked around, heart hammering. "Where am I?" A figure stepped forward from the shadows, an older version of Elias. "Lillian, you were never meant to come here. But now that you have, you must make a choice." She swallowed. What choice? To restore time as it was, or to forge a new path? The masterpiece controls all of time, but must never be misused. If it falls into the wrong hands, all of history could unravel. Lillian thought of the man, of the danger. She knew what she had to do. Taking a deep breath, she placed her hands on the clock. She turned the dial one last time. The world fractured around her. The sound of gears turning roared in her ears. And then, she was back. The bell tower was silent. The timepiece was gone. Her grandfather's workshop stood as it had when she first entered it, untouched by time's unraveling threads. And the man? Nowhere to be seen. Had she erased him? Had she undone everything? Her hands trembled as she reached for Elias's journal. A new entry was scrawled on the last page. "Time is restored. Remember, Lillian, time is not fixed, but it must always be protected." A tear slipped down her cheek. Elias was gone, but his legacy lived on. She had saved time itself. With a deep breath, she closed the journal. The clocks in the workshop ticked on, steady and unwavering, as they always had, and as they always would.